I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to plot your next best-selling novel. And the first thing is to understand what plot is. Plot is a sequence of events that make up your story. It's the backbone that keeps your readers engaged. A strong plot has a very clear beginning, middle, and end. And I recommend you spend some time learning about the different story structure models. If you are a new writer, choose one of them to help you plot your novel. There are several different popular methods for plotting a story. And I have two that are my two favorites. They are the 3-act story structure and hero's journey. And I've done videos about those two story structure models, and I will put the link for them in the description below. And in addition to that, we have created some downloadable templates. And these templates give each step in that story structure, and you can use those templates to fill in each story structure point with what's going to happen in your story. It's a great tool for helping you to outline your novel. I will put the link for those downloadables in the description as well. Think of story structure like a puzzle. I love doing puzzles. And so when you do a puzzle, you pick the picture that you want to create, and you create the outline. You do the outer edge first, and then you fill in the middle part of the puzzle. And with story structure, the story structure is your outer part, and you take all of the pieces that fit inside and you fit those inside your puzzle. Once you decide on a story structure model that you want to use, then you can go on to the next step, which is brainstorm ideas. Brainstorming ideas for your story will help you fill in all those plot pieces of your puzzle. Now, most of us learned how to brainstorm in school when we were growing up, but brainstorming is a very critical part of the creative process. Now, there's lots of ways to do brainstorming. You probably know a few, but the basics is that you want to get all of those ideas that are rattling around in your head and get them on paper or on your computer. So then you can take all of those ideas and organize them within the plot structure that you're going to use. Here's a couple of my favorite ways to do this part. And one is to free write. Get a notebook and just start writing down all of your ideas. It doesn't matter how crazy it is or how outlandish it is, write it down. Get it down so that you can process it and see if or how it fits into your plot puzzle. The other idea that's also very good is mind mapping. And this is where you take an idea and you put it, and you start in the middle of your paper with a bubble, and you write the main idea there, and then you just branch out with all of the different ideas that you have for your story. Some plots are more character driven, and so you might also want to do some brainstorming on your characters, which is a lot of fun. I love doing character sketches and brainstorming different characters. It's a lot of fun. We have a 10-minute character sketch that's a template that you can download, and that will help guide you in how to really quickly come up with a lot of characters and backstory on characters. And I will put the link for that in the description so you can grab that and use it to brainstorm your characters. The next step is to outline. I know that for some of you, if you're a pantser, that outline word is not a really happy word. You don't really like it. If you're an outliner or a plotter, then you love your outline. Either way, whatever you are, it doesn't matter. When I actually first started writing the very first book, I sat down and I wanted to be a pantser. So I just sat down and wrote a book. I basically didn't do much of anything but write when I did that first book. And then we got that done and we went on to book 2. And with book 2, we did an outline. It wasn't a very deep outline, but it was still an outline. And I wrote book 2 with the outline. And I discovered that having a loose outline was very helpful to me in my writing process. So whatever you are, whether you're a pantser or an outliner, I would just encourage you to explore the possibilities of an outline. Now, Dave does a pretty thorough outline. It's pretty detailed, like a lot of detail. And my outlines are not like that. My outlines are more skeletal. They're more ideas, and it's much looser. And so not all outlines are the same. I want to encourage you to take the story structure template, that is what you want to use for your story, and then take all your brainstorm ideas and insert those within that template, and that will give you a very basic outline to work from. And if you want to make it a much more in-depth outline, you can do that, but that will give you a very simple outline. Now, if you like this video, we would love it if you liked and subscribed and hit the bell notification, because it really helps the channel, and that way you don't miss any future videos. The next area to develop is conflict and stakes, and a really good plot has conflict. You can ask the question, what is at stake for my character, and what challenges is my character gonna face? Now, I have a couple of different types of conflict for you to consider. The first conflict is internal conflict, and this is also known as man versus self. These are internal conflicts within the character. A lot of the internal conflicts in a character are very relatable to the reader. This helps, this is when the character is struggling with self-doubt, or they don't like themselves, or whatever it is. It's an internal conflict. This next one is external conflict. This is also man versus nature, or man versus government or society. And this is basically where you have an outside force pushing against your character, which pushes the plot forward and gives your character something to overcome. The next one is interpersonal conflict, and this is man versus man. And in this one, you have your character and another character in the story, and there's a conflict. There's a clash of personality of some kind. And, you know, we can all relate to having a clash between ourselves and another person, and that is a great tool to increase conflict in your story. Remember that the higher the stakes, the more invested your reader will be. So think about the type of conflict you want to have in your story, and then insert those conflict types within your story structure plot outline. Now let's talk about how to end your story. Sometimes when we start writing, we know how it's going to end, and sometimes we don't. But take a moment and think about where you want your story to end up, and write that down. Now, sometimes if you have that, then you can use the ending to help you have plot points within the outline or the story structure that you're filling out, and help generate ideas, and write all that down. Now, be flexible with that. Don't stay rigid with this is where it has to end, because sometimes the creativity happens and the story can take on a life of its own, and it can end up in a different place. So be flexible with that, but also don't beat yourself up if you don't know how the story ends when you start writing, because sometimes it's a mystery. We have a video on how to end your story, and I will make sure that's in the description as well, so you can check that out. But there you have it, a step-by-step guide on how to plot your next best-selling novel. And if you love this video, you will love this one. And we would love to hear from you in the comments. What story idea are you working on plotting? And I will catch you in the next video.